Seeing that Vegeta is so confident, Son Goku and Piccolo could not help but change their faces. What Vegeta said about was the Great Ape transformation, which uses an artificial moon to stimulate the tail and transform the body into a great ape form. The giant ape looks ugly and savage, but it was a great weapon of the Saiyan, which could increase the strength of the Saiyan more than 10 times. However, after the increased strength reached 100,000 combat power, it would no longer continue to grow. But this was enough. With Vegeta's current strength, once the great ape is transformed, the combat power would immediately reach 100,000. It's more than enough to deal with Kakarot and the Namekian. The great ape transformation was not perfect, far from being comparable to the Super Saiyan transformation. Nevertheless, it can be regarded as a breakthrough in the field of small levels. It relied on the activation of the bloodline, unlike the Super Saiyan transformation, where quantitative changes produce qualitative changes, and it completely enters another level. And the huge body, after being transformed into a great ape, could easily become a huge target, which is only suitable for dealing with enemies with a combat power of less than 100,000. However, these unfavorable factors are broken in the outer fan, which had been from another angle to explain the giant ape transformation. The tail is easily irritated, which is the weakness and uneasy factor of the Saiyan. Its early role was not obvious. At least it had been a potential crisis until it becomes the Super Saiyan 3. Arg! He clenched his fist tightly, and several blue veins on his forehead were very abruptly exposed. Soon a bright, artificial moon was formed on Vegeta's fist. An icy smile climbed onto his face, and his indifferent eyes were bloodshot as if the overall situation was settled. Vegeta raised his fist high and pushed the artificial moon high into the sky. With a swish, a dazzling light shone from a high place. What is that? Krillin and others who were fighting not far away from them said in surprise. Nappa was so excited. Had the battle over there been so intense? To actually force Vegeta to use this move. It seemed that the battle was almost over. Bright and blinding light so that the Son Goku and others could not help but close their eyes. What the hell? Piccolo roared in indignation. Vegeta's cold face changed, his mouth bulged outward, two sharp teeth like a beast elongated, his short body grew a little bit bigger, and his hair grew wildly. Soon he became a giant ape more than 10 meters tall. The great ape transformation was completed, and the combat power of up to 100,000 had already appeared. The powerful aura was rolling towards the surroundings. Son Goku's eyes bulged, his eyes glazed round. He bewilderedly looked at the stout giant ape. Ha ha ha, almost 100,000 combat power. As long as it is exposed to moonlight, the Saiyan's tail will react, thus turning into a giant ape form. Kakarot, are you feeling desperate now? Ha, this form is ugly but powerful. The deafening sound came from high above, the loud sound with the unique wildness of the giant beast, drumming the eardrums, even vaguely painful. There was also the pressure that made people had to shudder. ****, the Saiyans even have such dirty tricks. Piccolo said with a cold face, and his voice was trembling a little, Son Goku, how you do not change. I don't know, damn it, no wonder Kami said that my tail is a factor of instability. Son Goku shook his head with a bitter smile, his gaze gazing at the immense ape of immense power. Now the other party's aura was too appalling. There was nothing he could do to face it. Snap! Thick giant palm stirring the air fiercely slapped down, bringing up tumbling waves of air. Son Goku and Piccolo were like a boat in the ocean. Although they escaped the frontal attack of the giant palm, they were swayed by the disturbed airwaves. Turtle School Qigong. Pulling back a certain distance, Son Goku cast a super large Turtle School Qigong. The sky blue Qigong wave rushed up to the sky and blasted toward the giant ape indefinitely. But the moment it hit the giant ape, the tortoise school Qigong disintegrated and scattered into a strand of free energy. The turtle school Qigong did not work at all. The giant ape was enraged. In addition to slapping over, with a long cry, it immediately shot out high-energy power from its mouth, like a straight water column, endlessly. Damn it! What a difficult opponent. Faced with the powerful attack launched by the giant ape, Son Goku and Piccolo were completely unable to fight back. But they also didn't dare face it head-on. The gap was vast, it was tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg, so they could only continue to dodge. The huge fist fell, and the earth burst open. Circles of terrifying vigor spread beneath the ground, and soon a ring of cracked and sunken faults formed on the ground. 10,000 kingdoms terrifying heavenly palm. Demon-slaying light cannon. The two major moves were released, and lightning flashed and thundered for a while, and the momentum was spectacular. But this couldn't scare the giant ape transformed Saiyan. AWO. The giant ape Vegeta was screaming wildly, and a powerful shock wave was ejected from his mouth, which cancelled out the world-shocking palm and the demon-slaying light cannon in the blink of an eye. This was not the way to go on. They felt physically and mentally exhausted, retreating to a distance and constantly panting heavily. At this time, although Piccolo was reluctant, he recognized the reality clearly: it's too strong, he's not something we can deal with. Son Goku nodded. Then, suddenly, his mind flashed, and he shouted excitedly, "I think I know the weakness of the great ape. It's the tail. As long as we cut off the tail he will return to his original form." Really? Piccolo couldn't believe it. The Saiyan's weakness would be so obvious. If that thick tail was the weakness, then the giant ape transformation was nothing to be afraid of. Son Goku affirmatively nodded, and then the two discussed how to cut off the giant ape's tails. Swoosh! Son Goku and Piccolo turned into two rays of light, rushing towards Vegeta. Flying to the front of Vegeta using the air dance technique, Son Goku and Vegeta looked at each other and then laughed, hee. Vegeta instinctively felt something wrong. Sun Fist. Son Goku yelled with both hands on his forehead, and the dazzling light gleamed like the sun, which instantly pierced Vegeta's eyes. Ha! The giant ape screamed in pain while holding his eyes. Piccolo, take advantage of it now. Got it. Piccolo moved quickly. His figure quickly appeared behind the giant ape, his hand condensed with a qigong blade as thin as a cicada's wings. But... bang! The giant ape waved wildly, and Piccolo was struck away before he could dodge. Son Goku was stunned. Such a good opportunity actually failed. It happened that the great ape turned half of its body, and half of its tail appeared in front of him. His eyes lit up, and this was a perfect opportunity. Without further ado, Son Goku hurriedly made a flat disc blade, aimed at the giant ape's thick tail, and cut it down. The tail fell to the ground, stirring up a piece of sand and dust. Vegeta felt a wave of pain came, his body began to lose strength, his body size also diminished, and he quickly returned to human size. The lookout. Old Kami had been focusing on the battle in the lower world. He looked serious until Son Goku cut off the giant ape's tail, and he sighed heavily. After the giant ape transformation, their defense and attack indeed rose exponentially. Still, if you know their weaknesses, coupled with the sluggish and clumsy movement, it seemed that the disadvantage outweighed the advantage. In this way, the three returned to the same starting point. Ayaka, the strength of these two Saiyans is already so terrifying. How strong will their backup be? Old Kami was cautious, and it would be even more troublesome if they brought them back up. Do not worry. Their backup will not come here. But, even if they do, aren't we still here? Ayaka said indifferently. Old Kami nodded thankfully, and the earth was indeed much safer with Ayaka and the others around. At this time, several streams of light converged from all directions. Cathro and the Queen's Guard had returned. Putting the Dragon Ball in his hand on the ground, several Dragon Balls collided together, and they made a buzzing sound like a dragon roar. Ah, Mama, I'm back. Raimo found 2 dragon pearls. The light flashed, Raimo's slender body fell to the ground, her cheeks were red, and the 2 dragon balls in her hands were also on the ground. Ayaka stroked Raimo's head, looked at the ground constantly flashing 7 dragon balls, and said, as long as we wait for Goku and the others to finish the battle, we can summon the divine dragon to restore the earth as before. After pondering for a moment, Ayaka told the 4 of Cathro, the strength of those 2 Saiyans is not low, Goku and the others are still a bit difficult to deal with the opponent, you go to the vicinity of the guard, if there are changes, then act decisively. Yes. The 4 responded in unison, turning into a few beams of light falling from the temple. With them around, it's even more foolproof. Huh. In a flash, Ayaka's face changed slightly, her bright eyes cast into the starry sky. What's wrong, is there something wrong? God asked with concern. Lightly shaking her head, Ayaka revealed a smile, nothing, just another bunch of grasshoppers coming to earth. Someone is coming again. The old Kami got a fright. When did the earth become so popular with aliens? Before this, aliens never cared about the earth. In the universe, the earth was like the countryside, and nobody cared about it at all. Don't worry, those guys are nothing. Besides, we still have Dragon Balls in our hands, and we can recover the damage caused by the Saiyan people before. The old Kami nodded his head and smiled. But, then, he sighed, but it is not a good thing that powerful enemies come round after round. Everything started at the beginning, and then it won't end well. For example, if a strong man comes to the earth and was defeated, it was bound to cause a new round of trouble. The defeated, strong man would rally his partners to attack the earth, and of course, he might swallow the bitter fruit and penance for several years before invading the earth. Therefore, it was better for the earth to be a planet isolated from the universe. At least, although it was remote, it would not get into trouble. But Ayaka knew that the idea of Kami was doomed to be impossible. After all, this was just the beginning. After this, the enemy would appear one after another. It was no exaggeration to say that the earth that started at this moment had gradually become the highlight of the whole universe. In the future, all kinds of monsters and gods would make their debut. It was like the people who came to the earth this time were definitely prominent. In terms of aura, it was far stronger than Vegeta after being transformed into a great ape. Kami, Mr. Popo, the lookout will be guarded by you. Lancey and I will go to the lower bound. Although we don't have to worry about the safety of the earth, the strength of those guys is still quite strong. Castro and the others are not their opponents. The old Kami was shocked that he lost his voice and cried, "Are you saying that even Castro and others are no match?" Castro was a man with a combat power of more than 100,000. Although Kami did not know the specific value, its strength was beyond doubt. So I'm going to stabilize the situation, and when it is handled, you will use Dragon Ball to restore everything. Ayaka smiled faintly and said. I understand. Kami looked serious. Mom, I want to go with you. Raima yelled, shaking her arm for fear that she would leave her behind. Okay, I will let you have the experience. With that, Ayaka took Raima's hand, nodded to Lancey and the others, and then turned into 2 rays of light. On the battlefield, after the bombardment of their unique skills, the whole plan changed completely. Not only had the area of hundreds of kilometers been sunk by hundreds of meters, but even the damaged area had expanded several times. Boom! The earth trembled and swayed. Not far away, Vegeta stared at Son Goku viciously, his eyes bloodshot. Damn Kakarot, you know the weakness of Saiyans. A pale red wall of air hovered around him, Vegeta's body twitched slightly, and his heart was unwilling to withdraw from the great ape-like state. The corners of his mouth trembled violently. Accompanied by an angry roar, a huge flame burned on the surface of his body. The dazzling red light diverged to the surroundings, and the black clouds in the sky became lower and lower. Amidst the lightning and thunder, the black clouds hovered and pressed against the ground. The line of sight became blurred, and it was no longer possible to distinguish between the sky and the earth in such a narrow space. Dong! A rumbling suddenly sounded in his ears. This sound was like a war drum. It turned out to be the sound of Vegeta's punch, and the wind pierced the air. The speed of the fist was breakneck, and a faint gleam of crystal could be seen from the tip of the fist, and even the wind path blowing from the tail could be seen clearly. Son Goku was alert, and his body quickly dodged the punch. 1 punch. 2 punches. 3 punches. Boom! The soil splashed out like waves. The shock wave brought up sand and gravel to form a vortex. The fragmented stones flew as fast as bullets, punching through the air and then hitting the ground, deeply embedded in the depths of the ground. Son Goku dodged. However, his physical strength was rapidly consumed. Is that guy a monster? His power hasn't diminished a bit. Piccolo spat out violently. Son Goku grinned and raised his eyebrows slightly. That Saiyan should not hold on for long. He consumes too much chi. In the air more than 10 meters high, Vegeta's face twisted, enduring the throbbing pain from his body. In fact, he was at the end of the force at this time. The continuous big moves made him seriously injured. Still, the arrogance that went deep into the flesh at that moment did not allow him to be defeated by inferior soldiers. Og! A mouthful of blood was spat out, and dizziness surged up. How can my dignified Saiyan prince be defeated by lower-level fighters? Kakarot. His face was hideous and terrifying, and his eyes were covered with blood. But the firm will drove Vegeta to persevere. Clap. 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 A series of crisp applause came, and 6 blurred figures appeared in the sky. Half-length hidden in the clouds, obscured by dark clouds, blurred. Who? Son Goku asked warily. At the same time, Vegeta and Piccolo also looked up. There was no answer. After a while, the voice came, interesting battle, but the level is too low, boring. The existence of this cloud layer is really an eye-catcher. So let me make it vanished. As soon as the voice fell, one of the 6 people screamed vigorously. Boom! Light blue energy ball burst open, and all of the dark clouds above his head were dissipated. When the light came down, Son Goku and the others could see each other's appearance clearly. This. All Son Goku, Piccolo, and Vegeta's eyes widened because the leader of the 6 was exactly the same as Son Goku, but they were very different from Son Goku in both momentum and strength. So powerful, is he a Saiyan? Vegeta was shocked. Piccolo glared at Son Goku, pointed at the man, and said, "That man looks so like you. Is he your brother again?" "I don't know either." Son Goku scratched his head and didn't know what to say. If it was his brother, there were too many brothers. Although there were many lower-level Saiyan fighters who look alike, they only had some similar characteristics, and they would definitely not be exactly the same. However, the one in front of him was too similar. Could it be the illegitimate son of Son Goku's father, Badak? The large energy detector kept beeping in the Kame house, and the data displayed above startled everyone. There are 310,000 fighting forces, and several energies have appeared. Bulma looked at the monitor, and her eyes were dull. Master Roshi jerked his crutches and looked pale. Oh, no, now Goku is in danger. Who are you, and why are you here? Son Goku asked. The other 6 people burst out laughing as if they were watching monkeys in the zoo and suddenly heard the monkeys ask them why they came to see them. We are the strongest destroyer, Toll's Crusher Corps. One of the tall guys stepped forward, looking proud. Haha, these people are much stronger than those just now. I don't know if they can take over our moves. 2 cosmic people who look exactly like twins say with a smile. Son Goku's face changed, just now. What have you done to them? Because of their strong fighting capacity, they fought with Nappa and Vegeta on 2 battlefields. He had guessed that Krillin and the others must have encountered these 6 strangers before them. Hey, do you mean those Earthlings? Oh, there is also a bald Saiyan. They are too weak, and they all fall in a few rounds. Don't worry. We don't even bother to kill them with their little strength. The cosmic twin man laughed. At this time, the man who looks precisely like Son Goku stepped forward and looked at Son Goku and Vegeta. He coldly said, "Kakarot, and the Prince of Saiyan, Vegeta, it's fate meeting you, but geez, it's disappointing to have only such strength after so many years." "Who are you?" Son Goku and Vegeta asked at the same time. "Me." The man chuckled, raised a finger, and shook his head. "Tolls, have you heard of this name?" Son Goku, of course, had never heard of it, but Vegeta was familiar with the name. Suddenly, a memory emerged and shouted in shock, "You are Tolls, are you not dead?" Vegeta then remembered Tolls, the Saiyan, who had been bullied by himself in his childhood. However, the low-level warrior like Tolls should have been destroyed along with Vegeta. How could he be alive? And that power is far above him. Damn it, how come there are so many powerful men one after another? The dark-skinned Tolls curled his mouth in disdain. Before, he might have looked at Vegeta in admiration, but now everything was different. His strength had surpassed Vegeta's imagination, and the Saiyan Prince was nothing but an object that he could kill at will. This was all thanks to the magical spiritual tree, Tolls said with emotion. Tolls, a low-level warrior who escaped from Vegeta by chance, wandered in the universe for several years by chance. He accidentally discovered a young spiritual tree and immediately allowed it to take root on a remote planet. With the fruits of the spiritual tree, Tolls' strength had undergone earth-shaking changes, with a full combat power of 310,000. The spiritual tree that Tolls met was not the same as the spiritual tree destroyed by Ayaka, but smaller in comparison, and it produced no more fruits than Ayaka's. At that time, Tolls had a combat power of 10,000 and made a breakthrough step by eating the fruit of the harmonious spiritual tree. The fruit of the spiritual tree was most suitable for people with strength between 100,000 and 5 million, and the enhancement effect was most apparent. However, Tolls had thousands of combat power, and he didn't know these taboos, so he wasted such treasures. But hundreds of thousands of fighting capacity was enough to satisfy his wanton arrogance ambition. After that, Armand, Dez, Kakao, Rize, and Lakasi were recruited to form the Tolls Legion, which focused on destruction. "This is terrible." Piccolo looked bitter. Vegeta had put them into a bitter battle already, and now there were more terrifying people. Tolls and his destruction army. What kind of disaster is happening on Earth? The Demon King who dreamed of ruling the Earth also understood how dangerous it was to rule it. At this time, sensing that 4 more powerful Chi was approaching, Piccolo quickly raised his head. 4 figures appeared in the air. Seeing the appearance of the visitor, Piccolo and Son Goku breathed a sigh of relief. This time, Castro and the 3 Queen's guards flew over. After receiving the Queen's order, they rushed to here immediately, and they happened to run into Tolls' group. Beep beep. A rapid beep from a special instrument at the ear frame. 180,000. 173,000. 165,000. 170,000. Noting the other party's data, everyone in the Tolls Corps showed amazement. However, only Tolls reported the data with a playful look. "Master Tolls, the strength of those people is too strong. We are not opponents, we need you to take action." Armand was surprised at the powerful shock of the data and said helplessly. Gently motioning with his hand, Tolls let the Legion's subordinate back. He didn't expect that such a powerful existence appeared on the Earth. Damn it! Vegeta's face was even more ugly for no reason. How could there be so many powerful people on this small Earth? First the unexpectedly powerful Earthlings, then the so-called Destruction Legion, and then this one before him? Judging from the opponent's momentum alone, he was far from an opponent. And he heard from Toles that the lowest of them all had 165,000 combat power. It was not worse than Frisia's team, maybe even stronger. The Saiyan prince couldn't accept it for a while. There were so many people who were stronger than him on the planet. He had some regrets about coming to Earth. Came house. Although they were tens of thousands of miles away from the plane where Son Goku and the others are, at this moment, the atmosphere inside the house was not at all much more relaxed than the scene. With the arrival of the Toles Crusher Corps, Bulma and others were dumbfounded. If the enemy were only Vegeta and Nappa, based on the trust in Son Goku, Piccolo, and others, they had the confidence to fight. But in the face of the Toles Crusher Corps, they were completely unable to comply. More than 300,000. Even if only the leader of the Toles Crusher Corps reached this level, but the presence of such a strong man, was no less than the scythe of death had been put to the neck. That kind of chill could not be described in words. It's as if asking a beggar to compensate for tens of millions of dollars worth of gems. What else could there be but despair? After the 6 powerful signals, 4 more powerful energy sources appeared on the screen, second only to Toles. At this time, Bulma, Master Roshi, and others' hearts were becoming even more violent. Son Goku, Piccolo, Vegeta, Toles Crusher Corps, Castro, and the Queen's personal guard. If you count them down, there were 13 of the entire battlefield with a combat power of more than 20,000. Sure enough, it could be called a meeting of the wind and clouds, and there were few such lively gatherings in the entire galaxy. Lightly landing on the ground, Castro and the others descended to the ground in an orderly manner. Castro gazed toward Toles and his group. Then, he asked solemnly, "I thought there were only 2 Saiyans. Who are they?" Son Goku was injured quite heavily, and moved his body with difficulty, and said with a bitter look on his face, "The leader is called Toles, he just arrived, and he is another powerful enemy." Nodding slightly, Castro and the 3 personal guards strode forward and stood in front of Son Goku. Years of experience on the battlefield made them see at a glance that only the leader were very dangerous. The other 5 were not enough to worry about. "He's called Toles, right? I haven't heard of him. I don't know about him." Castro recalled in his mind, struggling to find news about Toles, but unfortunately, he hadn't heard about a strong man called Toles at all. For more people have come to die, Kakarot. So you have a lot of friends. Toles' tone was frivolous, from which it revealed his arrogant and cocky character. Son Goku did not respond and wisely patted Piccolo on the shoulder, letting him slowly retreat together with himself. This level of battle was no longer what they were able to interfere with. Of course, if you say you had more than 100,000 combat power, perhaps it was a challenge. Still, with combat power of 30,000 and not to mention being severely injured, that was just looking for death. Moreover, Toles had 310,000 combat power. So there's not much they could do right now. The most important thing was to have self-knowledge, and Son Goku was very clear-headed. Damn it! Piccolo cursed angrily but followed Son Goku back together. Unexpectedly, the dignified Demon King Piccolo turned out to be a drag in the battle, which made him both angry and ashamed. However, his desire to become stronger was even greater now. When Son Goku retreated, Castro judged the situation and quickly arranged a strategy. "Lanra, you and I will take care of that Toles guy. Entaisuke, Jamboni, you take care of the rest." "Take care." "Yes." "Understood." The members of the Queen's Guard answered. Firstly, they were confident. Secondly, they represent the Queen to the outside world. Therefore, to defend the majesty of the Queen, they must win. Toles watched coldly as the other side distributed the personnel, without the slightest intention to stop them, because he did not put them in his eyes at all, a turtle in a jar, not enough to worry about. "Amond, later, you just hold on for a while. When I kill those 2 leaders, I will come to your aid." Toles did not care. His words were full of dominance. Yes, Lord Tolls. The 5 men of the Tolls Crusher Corps were also heartless, not worried at all about their opponent's strength surpassing their own. They believed that with Lord Tolls around, it would be easy to kill the other party. By the way, Lord Tolls, it seems like I've seen that white attire and red border of these 4 people somewhere. See specifically the school uniform in IS, which is similar to it. Tolls glanced and chuckled, what? You think they look good and want to design a combat uniform like them? Amand grinned. Oh, when we defeat them, we'll go back and dress up in uniform. Tolls promised with conviction. Swish. The personnel on both sides turned into several beams of light. Castro and Lanra, with their golden lights glowing, pounced on Tolls head-on. At the same time, Anti-Sai and Jambuni also moved swiftly and instantly appeared in front of Tolls' army. Snap! Wind with amazing energy rampant across, the battle between 2 sides immediately fired up. Vegeta looked at the 2 sides who were fighting in full swing not far away, with his arms in front of his forehead, trying his best to block the enormous shock wave coming. How can this be? He staggered back a few steps. His head was dizzy. Vegeta's gloomy face kept twitching in his heart, and a strong unwillingness surged in his heart. He thought he was strong enough, but he was repeatedly frustrated on this small earth, and now even the leaked energy made him feel irresistible. What is this strength difference? Damn, I'm the dignified Saiyan Prince Vegeta. How can I give up? Be stronger, I want to be stronger. He let out an unwilling roar. The belief in becoming stronger was like a poisonous ant gnawing at his nerves. On the side, Son Goku also resisted hard. This is the real battle. Son Goku exclaimed excitedly as his eyes flickered. I want to fight with them. Even just watching them fight from afar, he could feel his blood boiling. Idiot, you can't even handle their power and still want to fight? Piccolo spoke scornfully with a sneer on his face. Okay, this demon lord understands what that idiot means, but what's the matter with the flickering light in his eyes? It seemed that sparks were coming up at any time. Boom! 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 A large swath of light fell from the sky, the battlefield countless waves of chi surged. The violent energy swept through. Although there were 5 members of the Tolls Crusher Corps, they were still completely suppressed by the 2 members of the Queen's personal guard, Anti-Sai and Jambuni. However, on the other side of the battlefield, things were not that good. Noting the rapidly moving figure, Tolls chuckled confidently, and his body flashed like lightning in the night sky. He raised his leg, closed his fist, hit directly, and hit a series of attacks in one go. Bang! With a muffled sound, Castro screamed, and his abdomen was wounded, his whole body flew out, and an extremely deep gully was drawn along the ground. Then, when the dust dissipated, he saw half of his body sinking into the soil. Bang! The next moment Castro leaped up again, but as soon as he landed, Tolls' attack arrived again. Again, a wave of Qigong attacked him, a stumble on the ground to stabilize his feet. But, again, Castro hastily responded to the move, and his feet slid back a few meters, the muscles of his body twitched, his face became blue and white. Tisk, quite a fighter. I wonder how many more moves you can take. Tolls sighed in admiration. His figure suddenly blurred, and the man had already disappeared from his original place. With a cry of exclamation, Castro's anxiety surged out and tried to dodge, but Tolls' attack was too fast, and it was almost impossible to catch. At this time, a figure appeared in front of him, blocking the upcoming attack. It was Lanra. In the nick of time, she blocked Tolls' attack. No, not blocked, but Tolls changed his attack. Bang! With a big wave of Tolls' hand, the latter was like a kite with a broken string, and the figure flew diagonally. This is the chance. Castro saw this rare opportunity and launched an all-out attack. Boom! There was a huge collision sound, and the 2 light streams sprinted violently in the opposite direction. Toes landed peacefully while Castro burst out of the way. With a cold snort, Toes' face was filled with a gloomy look. "Humph, I forgot about another guy." "Thank you, Lanra." Castro thanked Lanra. Without her, he would have been beaten to a pulp. Lanra nodded but had to be alert immediately. Unlike Anti-Ski and the girls, who very easily restrained the Toes core, the guy they were facing was simply terrifyingly strong. Under the light of the rising sun, Ayaka carrying the child in her arms swept through the air. A beam of air currents visible to the naked eye rolled up in the sky. Due to the low flight, where the huge wind bent the trees, chaotic chirping sounded in the forest and thousands of birds of prey immediately puffed away from the treetops. For a strong person like Ayaka, the distance was no longer a problem, so even without instantaneous movement, she could quickly reach the battlefield. "Mama, the blackness over there is so scary, and the breath is so chaotic and confusing." Raimu, in her arms, pointed to a dark cloud in the distance and exclaimed. Ayaka nodded. That was where the battlefield took place. Thinking of this, she increased her speed and plunged head-on into the chaotic place where the demons were raging. Castro's face was pale, and his body was heavily scarred. On the opposite, Toes was overwhelmed with an astonishing aura, like a lofty and tall mountain. Sitting in the center, the earth around him slowly began to crumble in front of his absolute strength. "Very good to hold on for so long. You really impressed me." Toes was completely taking the posture of a victor. Because of this power gap, there's a sense of superiority. Nearly double the difference in strength, not 18 and 31, but 180,000 and 310,000. No fluke could make up for such a large gap. This is the end of the game. Next, I'll let you taste my terrifying power, the final blow. The cold arrogance exploded, and the flaming arrogance made everyone had to move. Piccolo and Son Goku opened their mouths wide, their eyes glazed round, mumbling open and closed but could not say half a word. Vegeta was thrown into the air by a sudden burst of power, falling far away from the center. His face was dusty, and his arrogant pride was severely hit. "Go to hell." Viper Blastwave. The blood-red shockwave shot straight out, splitting into two halfway and lunging at Castro and Lanra, respectively. The Viper shockwave did not show any signs of decay because it split in two. In fact, even half of the Viper shockwave was not something that Castro and Lanra could take. The violent whirlwind grazed the ground and instantly cracked a crack. The power that destroys the heavens and the earth runs through the past in two nearly parallel straight lines. At this moment, heaven and earth switched hues, and the gloomy gray dust dissipated instantly. Rumble. The violent explosion rose up in the plains, and the whole continent shook violently. Even in the distant temple, you could also vaguely sense a shaking. The smoke cleared, the yellow sand flying in the sky, a light wind blew, sounded a light rustling. Toes raised his arms high, enjoying the pleasure of releasing energy to his heart. Then, he opened his mouth and laughing. However, this situation did not last long. After his sight became clear and the picture was gradually clear, Toza's excited face suddenly became stiff, the outline of the arc suddenly solidified, a trace of dismay replaced his joy. Impossible. How can a person who was attacked by the Viper shock wave still stand like nothing? A sharp, trembling voice rang out as Toz looked ahead in disbelief. The person who his ultimate move had attacked was still standing there intact. This was absolutely impossible. "Who are you?" Toz shouted violently. There was someone else standing in front of Castro and Lanra. She was calm and breezy, and her clothes were constantly shaking in the swaying gust of wind. "My queen!" Castro shouted excitedly. "Huh, Ayaka is here." Son Goku's face was excited, and his agitated mood was finally relaxed. At that moment, two more figures landed. Lancy and Launch arrived late. It turns out that when seeing Castro and Lanra in critical condition, Ayaka teleported in front of Castro and the others. Piccolo turned his head, but his expression relaxed. He naturally knew that the Empress of the new northern forces had come personally and that little Toll's legion was of no concern. Among the people present, the most astonished one, besides Toll's, was Vegeta. He saw that this short, pointed-haired guy suddenly appeared astonished after Ayaka and the others came on stage. Why are they on Earth? Vegeta cried out in a panic. The painful memories of more than 10 years ago struck the brain, and it was Vegeta's most humiliating experience. The shadows Ayaka and the others brought to him were too deep. But, to a large extent, it was because of that experience that triggered Vegeta's crazier practice. Oh, you know them too. Piccolo was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, Vegeta had seen Ayaka, so she looked at him in the eyes full of gloating. Look at the other side of a panicked look, and I am afraid Ayaka has abused him a lot. Even if she did not abuse Vegeta, the title of Queen of the New North Forces was roughly a violent psychological punch. You don't know that she is the goddess of heaven of the earth, so you rushed over here? Piccolo said teasingly. Hearing this, Vegeta's face instantly blackened, as ugly as eating a grasshopper. At this point, he was beyond sure that coming to Earth was the stupidest decision he had ever made. Toes did not know the origin of Ayaka and the girls but seeing them spoil his own good time. His face was ugly, his finger aimed at Ayaka and crazily screaming, "Where is the woman from? How dare to obstruct the work of Lord Tolls, our board of living? Your name is Tolls." Ayaka smiled faintly in her heart. She didn't expect that the group of people who came to Earth afterward were actually Tolls and his men. Seeing the chi surging through his body, he must have eaten the spirit tree fruit. However, Tolza's words made her unhappy. With a slight raise of her eyebrows, Ayaka's face sank. Too arrogant, this Tolls is completely thuggish, without any quality of a martial artist. Mama, I've moved them all. Then, a child's voice came. Raimo ran over, holding up a stack of stacked walls of people. Well, a total of 6 or 7 people, a slender figure but holding up such a pile of people looks very inconsistent. Clattering, throwing people to the ground, I am jogged away. Ah, Krillin, Chiatsu. Looking at the people who fell to the ground and passed out, Son Goku rushed over to spread them out. It turned out that after rushing to the plane, she watched Krillin and the others lying on the ground. Raimo volunteered to help, and Ayaka agreed, but Raimo's way of carrying it seemed a bit savage. Damn, how dare you ignore this lord? Seeing that he was ignored, Tolls was furious, his body flames burning up. With a roar, his feet suddenly exerted force. Click. The rock layer cracked, his whole person flew out like a cannonball. The speed was so fast that it left a series of blurred residual shadows on the spot, and it arrived in front of Raimo in the light of a bolt of lightning. Go to hell. Powerful energy converged on the leg, bursting out bright sparks, a flying leg with the air-breaking roar straight towards Ayaka. Son Goku and the others were stunned by Toll's violent attack. They tried to see Toll's movements, but unfortunately, they could only catch a faint afterimage. Son Goku shook his head, that's just too fast. A cold light flashed in her eyes, and the corners of Ayaka's mouth moved a little, revealing a brilliant smile. Then, her body whirled and disappeared. Toll's face changed slightly, and he unexpectedly pounced on an empty, just now clearly here. How could she have disappeared? Suddenly a sense of danger struck him, and he felt a chill at the bottom of his heart. Under the bright light, in addition to seeing his own shadow, there was actually a blurred figure overlapping him. He secretly cried out. Tolls realized that something was not good. A layer of goosebumps on the skin, his cold sweat brushed out. As expected, he only heard Ayaka heave a laugh, and her ghostly figure appeared behind Tolls, her white arms tightly tensed. Clench and punch. The majestic vigor broke through the air, and an iron fist was like a mountain on the top, and the thunder was unstoppable. Crack. There was a crisp sound from the spine. Tolls screamed, Blood ejected from his mouth, and the whole person's abdomen protruded and folded back into an incredible shape. This scene happened too quickly, and it was estimated that less than a second before and after. Whether it was the Son Goku, Piccolo, or Vegeta that had their scalp numb, this pain made anyone see it goosebumps. Staggered a few steps, Toles fell to the ground, his eyes filled with blood, looking at Iona's with a gaze full of resentment. ****, how dare you hurt this lord? Then, with a mad roar, he unexpectedly stood up again and pounced on Ayaka desperately. Still not fallen. The cold light on Ayaka's face flickered. Toza's tenacity was a little beyond her expectations, but it does not matter. If he could still fight, then fight again. As soon as the thought passed, she sprinted forward and launched another series of powerful attacks of the same scale. In just a second, Toles was attacked up and down hundreds of times. Boom! A heavy blow from her leg hit Toles' head. A huge vortex formed in the air, followed by a trembling of the earth, and Toles fell from the sky and plunged into the ground. The terrifying force was transmitted underground and spread out, with the impact point as the center. A ring of shock waves formed on the surface. Toles was half exposed in the soil above, all the bones in his body were not intact, and his breathing was suspended for a while. Gently patting the palm of his hand, flicking away the ash stained on his body, Ayaka showed a bright smile and walked to the front of Son Goku calmly and gracefully. Sister so powerful. Son Goku gulped. Piccolo also nodded stiffly. Unimaginable, too unexpected, Ayaka's battle was too swift and efficient. Just a moment, just now was the arrogantly boundless Toles actually fell to the ground like a dead dog, how strong this must be. And the usually elegant and quiet girl fighting up so intensely. It was unimaginable. She smiled. Ayaka took out a few senzu beans, threw them to the Son Goku and Piccolo, and commanded Castro, quickly, clean up all of Toles' party. Yes. Castro replied in a loud voice, made a turn. He and Laner flew over together. Eating senzu beans, Son Goku and others quickly recovered from their injuries. As in the original, the strong inertia of the plot eventually prompted a large consumption of the Earth's immortal beans. Although this time, not Yachirobe took the first credit, in his combined efforts with some kind of rats on Korin Tower, senzu beans still ran out. Wow, it's so relaxing, so healthy and comfortable. Thanks. Piccolo said silently. An elegant smile climbed onto her face. Her delicate face looked at Vegeta, and two bright and energetic eyes stared at Vegeta. How should I deal with Vegeta, Seeing Ayaka looking towards him, the latter stepped back in a panic. As soon as his body moved with the wound, a sense of dizziness came up. At this time, the arrogance of the Saiyan must be put aside. Vegeta was already terrified by Ayaka. Sighing and throwing out a bean, Ayaka calmly said, Saiyan Prince, Vegeta. After today's battle, you should know that there are people outside the sky. Pride is to rely on their own to maintain, by following Frieza, you cannot have a future. Vegeta bit senzu bean suspiciously, and what surprised him was that his whole body was recovering at an incredible speed. My injuries, surprisingly, all healed. He waved his fist to confirm that his body had indeed recovered as usual. After hearing what the mysterious girl said, Vegeta trembled and turned and left with a complicated complexion. His strength was still far away from enough. Ayaka, how did you let him leave? He is going to invade the Earth. Piccolo said anxiously when Ayaka was about to let Vegeta go. Son Goku laughed heartlessly at the side, it's okay, when he comes again, then defeat him. Ayaka nodded, Goku is right. He is only a little stronger than you guys. Practice well. Don't you have the confidence to defeat him? Piccolo stayed silent, but he was the Demon King Piccolo. How could he be afraid of a Saiyan? But to be honest, he was a little nervous. Not long after saving Krillin and others, Castro and the Queen's personal guard flew over. After they swept up, Tulz and his party have all been eliminated. If it were a general Saiyan, Ayaka would most likely think of the idea of collecting, but Tulz was an exception. This Saiyan was not necessary to keep. Even if she was not worried about the tail being too big, she was really not in the mood to raise a bite force of a not very strong tiger. Ayaka gathers only those Saiyans who were obedient and could turn their heads back. "Ayaka, what about that Saiyan named Nappa?" Lancey asked softly. Vegeta did not have time to take Nappa when he left, and now he was still in a coma. Upon hearing this, everyone looked at Ayaka. The corners of her mouth turned. Ayaka said her decision: "The Saiyan called Nappa is not very dangerous, he had not much potential, but his strength looks good. So Castro just takes him and Raditz back to the Leaf Spirit planet and give them a position to keep an eye on them." Everyone nodded and had no objection to Nappa's arrangement. Raditz and Nappa, as Saiyans, had not much potential. Not all Saiyans could be like Son Goku and Vegeta as having a continuous breakthrough and become Super Saiyan. Vegeta itself is very good, while the Son Goku is the anomaly. Raditz and Nappa's strength could reach tens of thousands were already rare and valuable. Subsequently, Ayaka looked at the plains filled with smoke like a desert and returned to the lookout with everyone. Soon after Ayaka and others left, one after another aircraft landed, and reporters from all over the world carried cameras to dangerous places to capture news materials. Everyone was shocked and they saw the dilapidated and terrifying plains hundreds of kilometers away. Being on the scene is more shocking than what you see on the screen. After confirming that the crisis had passed, the world boiled, just as it was when the Demon King Piccolo was defeated. It's just that this time the enemy is stronger and more dangerous, but fortunately, the martial artist of the earth has won again. On TV, the king appeared on the screen, and he expressed gratitude to the martial arts masters from all over the world who fought bloody battles to defend the earth. But because Son Goku and his gang always acted low-key, the king couldn't find their address for a while. And without their consent, they dare not release their information hastily. So the whole disaster was as strange as a mythical story for people to enjoy. Soon after the king's speech, people became interested in martial arts. The videos of the martial arts associations of the past were circulated. Only by this look did they discover the corner that everyone has forgotten. Everyone was shocked by the strength of martial arts. Immediately afterward, various martial arts myths began to spread. The legends of the god of martial arts and the sacred land of Korin were well known. There was an endless stream of martial arts enthusiasts who went to challenge Korin's tower. But no one seemed to be able to climb up successfully. Soon after Tulz was destroyed, Ayaka and others returned to the lookout. After Nappa woke up, he gasped as if he had seen a ghost and trembled when he saw Ayaka. Finally, Raditz came out to comfort him, and he gradually calmed down. Knowing that Vegeta had left him and ran away alone, Nappa sighed heavily and then tremblingly. Along with Raditz, he was taken away from the earth by Castro and his group. Nappa had a big personality. As long as someone presses him down, he won't mess around. After being brought back to the New North forces by Castro, Nappa and Raditz were given a little training on professional-related knowledge and then assigned to manage a lower-level planet. The two of them would spar occasionally, but Raditz was often defeated, and then Master Nappa would laugh with arrogance. In the previous battle to defend the Earth, Son Goku and others were deeply stimulated by the terrifying power that Vegeta and Tulz showed. Especially Tulz, who was so strong and terrifying that they couldn't put a little resistance just because of his aura. If Ayaka hadn't made a move at the last moment, the Earth would have fallen. Afterward, they heard that Tulz's combat power reached 310,000, which really made everyone confused. It's a shocking 310,000 power. A powerful combat power that they had never heard of. It was not easy to feel weak and helpless. Weakness often meant destruction. So, after Vegeta left the Earth, Son Goku and the others practiced desperately, trying to enhance their own strength further. But didn't it mean that strength could be improved by merely practicing? After a period of cultivation, except for the fact that Son Goku was a Saiyan, his strength had been enhanced to a certain extent. In contrast, Krillin and others had progressed slowly to almost standing still. The path of cultivation should be relaxed one by one, step by step, and should not be rushed. Krillin and the others were pure earth people, not a fighting nation. Their strength was already commendable at 10,000. Now they were all facing the huge bottleneck of the gully, which was the limitation of racial talent. Seeing their hard work and arduous practice day and night, Ayaka was moved deeply, and didn't want their strength to stagnate. In the original book, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan, and others withdrew from the battle arena early due to a lack of strength due to the increasingly powerful enemies behind them. In addition to Krillin's barely contributing a little bit, the earth had been guarded by Son Goku. In fact, they were not reconciled, especially Tien Shinhan. Even after he retired from the fighting stage, he still did not give up his dream. Instead, he practiced like an ascetic monk day and night and wanted to surpass Son Goku, but sadly the gap with Son Goku was getting wider and wider. Racial talent alone because Son Goku was a Saiyan, and they were just earthlings. Even Krillin, who was known as the strongest man on Earth, could only hold millions of combat power. Even a fraction of the Super Saiyan cannot compare. So, on a dark and windy night for a month, Ayaka told them about the Great Elder Namek and then brought them to Namek, wanting to use the power of the Great Elder to unlock their potential and cross the earth. As for the subsequent practice, Ayaka had other arrangements not to let them keep up with the Super Saiyans, but at least they can't even fight with soy sauce in the battle. Namek, on a grassland covered with green grass. The breeze was blowing, and the delicate grass swayed and undulated, with small ripples like waves. Then, on the higher ledge, blurred figures flashed, and Ayaka and others appeared on the ridge. Wow, is this the Namek star? There is grassland everywhere. As soon as they stabilized, everyone began to look around, looking at the surrounding grassland and sighing. Son Goku looked around with interest and was immersed in the quiet and elegant grassland. Namek Star was rarely populated and looked a little desolate, but the scenery was still good. What a miraculous trick! I left the earth in the blink of an eye. Is this Piccolo's hometown? The composition of the air is similar to that of the earth. Piccolo stared at this planet that could be said to be his hometown in amazement, a warm air surging in his body, and his brows revealed inner throbbing. Finally, he calmed down and said in a low voice, "This is my hometown. There is indeed a taste of nostalgia. Hey, Uncle Piccolo's hometown, wouldn't there be many Uncle Piccolo here?" The innocent son Gohan cried out in surprise. "Idiot, it's just the same race, so there won't be a lot of Piccolo. He, like the residents here, is a Namek." Raimu said contemptuously when he looked at Son Gohan contemptuously. Oh, Son Gohan nodded timidly, hiding behind Son Goku embarrassedly. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but chuckle. Ayaka's voice sounded, "Everyone, get ready. We are going to meet the Great Elder of Namek. The Great Elder is the most respected existence of Namek. The Namekian highly respects him. Please pay attention when we meet for a while." "Huh, I understand. Can I develop my potential as long as I meet the Great Elder?" Krillin laughed and eagerly asked, expecting and yearning. Compared to whether the Great Elder was highly respected, he paid more attention to when he could develop his potential. "That's right, but because things are already high in old age, we shouldn't bother too much." Everyone said yes, and followed Ayaka to fly towards the residence of the Elder. The breeze was blowing with a hint of coolness. Ayaka and his group were extremely fast. In a moment, they flew over the mountains and gradually entered a desolate and lonely area. "Step up. The Grand Elder's residence is just ahead," Ayaka said softly. With a swoosh, more than 10 light flashes straightened through the cliff face. Then, extremely fast speed rolled up a gust of wind, scraping on the cliff, the long-weathered and deteriorated rock like already rotten fruit, flying down from high in the air into the cliff. Soon they arrived at the destination. Ayaka and his party landed one after another, and the residence of the Great Elder was in front of them. The Great Elder lives there,